Hi, folks. My name is Raj Sisodia. I'm the co-founder and co-chairman of Conscious Capitalism Inc., as well as a F.W. Olin Distinguished Professor of Global Business at Babson College. And it's my pleasure to provide an introduction to this book, both through a foreword as well as through this brief video overview. Um, the journey of conscious capitalism really began about 8 or 9 years ago. For me, it was through a book that I wrote called Firms of Endearment, which was about companies that are loved by all their stakeholders. And we discovered that there were certain common elements about such companies. First of all, that they had a higher purpose, the reason why they existed beyond making just profits. Secondly, that they try to actually create value for all of their stakeholders, not just investors, and they try to integrate the interests of all of these stakeholders. Third is that they have leaders who care about the purpose of the business, who care about the people, who are not just about power and personal enrichment. And lastly, that they have cultures that are rooted in trust and authenticity and transparency, and most importantly, caring. And so these pillars really define what it means to be a firm of endearment or a conscious business. And one of the findings of our research was that these kinds of companies actually, in the long term, are also more successful financially, not just providing other kinds of well-being for all their stakeholders. So there's not a trade-off between being good to stakeholders and having purpose and so forth, and actually making good financial returns, in fact, outstanding financial performance. So the movement started roughly in 2008 when I got together with John Mackey and some others who were thinking about these ideas. And John Mackey and I wrote the book Conscious Capitalism in 2013. And we have dedicated ourselves over the last several years to building a global movement to change the story about business in accordance with these deeper principles. The movement has been growing a lot. We have chapters in about 25 cities and close to 10 other countries now, including Brazil. And so one of the great joys of being a part of this movement has been to see how these ideas have taken root and have flourished in very, very different societies and economies around the world. And so that's been really something that's been very inspiring, and it's led us to realize that conscious capitalism actually reflects some deep universal human values. And they transcend differences in history and language and religion and culture and so forth. Because these ideas are rooted in human dignity, they're rooted in freedom, they're rooted in caring. And they speak to the deep inner striving that human beings have towards meaning and purpose, especially in today's world. They also reflect the determination of younger leaders who don't want to be restricted by the ideas of the past, the dogmas of the quiet past, as Lincoln called them, especially when it comes to how we should think about and practice business. So entrepreneurs around the world are reimagining business as a vehicle for service, for the upliftment of humanity, rather than simply as a way to make as much money as possible. Now, I don't think most of us need to be reminded that we live in a world in which there's an extraordinary amount of pain and suffering, and reducing some of that suffering and bringing more joy into the world should be a part of all of our life's purposes, individually as well as those of businesses. Every business, in that sense, we believe should be a healing business. Because if it's not part of the healing, then it's part of the hurting. And that's really what conscious capitalism tries to do. The ideas or the tenets of conscious capitalism, we believe, are quite simple. They're easy to understand, and their power and their relevance are not really in question. But one question that we do hear around the world, once people do get exposed to these ideas, is how do we do this? How do we implement these ideas? How can we transform existing companies? How can we build new companies based on these ideas so that this becomes a part of the DNA of the business? This is not something that goes away after a certain amount of time, becomes a permanent feature of the business. And to that end, the book that you're now holding in your hands is a very, very important contribution. The Brazil chapter of Conscious Capitalism has always been at the forefront. It was one of the most enterprising and creative chapters over the years. And it's really rooted in a lot of the practical wisdom and the deep commitment and the energy of its founders. And so CC Brazil has taken the lead in spreading these ideas throughout this very important and large country. In particular, it's been wonderful to work with Thomas Schmidt, who is the CEO of Conscious Capitalism Brazil, because he's brought more passion and commitment and energy to spreading conscious capitalism than just about anybody in the world. And recognizing the need for a practical approach for implementation, Thomas and his colleagues have produced this book, which will become, we believe, an essential resource for anybody looking to create a conscious business. And that also includes how do you become a more conscious leader, because you cannot have a conscious business without a conscious leader, and you cannot be a conscious leader without being a more conscious human being. And this book actually has a lot of powerful guidance and practical exercises for cultivating your own consciousness as a human being and as a leader. We believe that this book will help inspire leaders and their teams by bringing the principles of conscious capitalism to life. It will provide some theory and insights and cases to entrepreneurs, to CEOs, to leaders at every level to start practicing and implementing the new business models that simultaneously create financial but also intellectual, social, emotional, spiritual, cultural, ecological well-being for all stakeholders. It will help people connect to their own deeper purpose, and it will help you discover the unique purpose that your company can fulfill in the world. So this book is truly a great gift because it will make the world a better place by enabling a better form of business to spread and grow. Thank you.